So I just wanted to mention before I talk about the actual deck profile today. Now with the release of that like Crystal Revenge, Battle of Legends or something, Crystal Revenge, dude, the fucking Poison guy just got heavily discounted. And now Boar's back down to being a reasonable price. Gale's back down to being a reasonable price. Vayu's back down to being a reasonable price. Like, this deck is much more viable than it was when I released the Blackwing video several weeks ago. Let me put it at that. And this guy is really the only one who's still like above $150 each. Unless you count the Allures of Darkness. But anyway, so I wanted to talk today about the Jack Atlas deck that I've been building. So Jack Atlas is my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's character, always has been. I love Yusei, and obviously have a deck dedicated to him as well. But Jack, God, he is just a force to be reckoned with. When I watched him in the very first episode, I fell in love. Like, he's like, King wa Hitori, kono ore da. And then he summons his Red Demon's Dragon, and then he's like, Kurogai, Shakumetsu no Crimson Hail Flare! That's when I realized that this guy meant business. Like, he's someone who I always aspired to be like, but obviously he's an anime character, so you can't quite be as impolite as he is. But for the longest time, his deck, the anime deck, was just, obviously it was ridiculous. He always went second, so that way he could special summon Vice Dragon and the normal summon Dark Resonator, and boom, he had Red Demon's Dragon just like that. But yeah, so his deck didn't actually become usable until he got heavy support from these like hot Red Dragon Archfiend monsters. And then when more Resonators came out, like Crimson Resonator, who, this guy's obviously a staple, and then Red Resonator, this guy is $1 each for a reason. And I have no idea why Red Sprinter is so expensive, but he is usable because he is a Fiend. Well, actually, hold on. Specifically, level 4 Fiend, as well as he does have a nice effect if you don't have Crimson Resonator. But if you have Crimson Resonator and Red Sprinter, then it's like kind of pointless. But let me go through the basic idea of this deck, some of the combos that you can pull off, and why I love it so much. So you start off with 3 Ascator Dawnwalkers. So this guy used to be fairly expensive until he got reprinted a couple months ago or something like that. I don't even remember. But he's an easy way to bring out a level 8 monster. So I typically go for either the Scarlight if I need Red Dragon Archfiend to be the name on the field. Oh yeah, so I made this deck several months ago, so this is what I ran, right? The Chaos Ruler. This guy was very nice in this deck because of the fact that what you're looking for are dark monsters, and a lot of these guys can actually special summon themselves. So for instance, the Synchron Resonator, the Assault Synchron, Red Nova obviously is not targetable, and then I guess Creation Resonator is not targetable either. But it is nice to be able to search for targets, and sometimes even putting them in the grave, because some of these guys get bonuses when, like for instance, Red Nova Dragon and Supernova, when there are more tuners in the grave. And then also the Bane and the Abyss, you'll notice that you get to use their effect quite a bit, where you're able to special summon Resonators from the grave. So his effect was quite good, but obviously he's banned, so you either wait till he's unbanned, or I guess you could substitute something else in there. But Ascator Dawnwalker, you discard a card, so if you've got extra shit in your hand that you don't want to use up, like for instance, you've got Red Sprinter and Crimson Resonator, and you already have another level 4, then one of these guys, well, the Red Sprinter is really dead in your hand, discard him, and then you get a special summon himself, and then in Fire Ant Ascator, this guy's from the anime, Rex Godwin used him, and that's 3 + 5, and then you go into your 8. Basically, that's how that works. It's just nice to be able to not always have to rely on a normal summon or something like that. You can still do your Synchro Wean and continue your plays through this special summon effect. And then you've got your probably... other than Crimson Resonator, this guy is an ace monster in this deck. Wandering King Wildwind. This guy was so expensive for the longest time until he got reprinted in, maybe it was like Ghost, not Call of the Haunted. The Ghost from the Past, the second Call-In, or whatever it was. I don't remember which pack it came from. But this guy was so good. He was obviously made for Resonators, because it says if you control a Fiend Tuner, that's all the Resonators. Then you can special summon him. He's so good. Not to mention he gets another effect. Remember, if you want your decks to be competitive, you need monsters with multiple types of effects, especially ones that activate when they're in the grave at some point, to plus your hand further or plus your field further to give you that advantage. During your... So I'm reading the last sentence, basically. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your grave, add one Fiend Tuner with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. He helps you search for... Let's say you really needed that Creation Resonator, or a Crimson Resonator, I guess. But this guy is really easy. This is back before card effects used to say you can only use this effect once per turn. Or you can, like Synchron Resonator, where you can only special summon this guy for free from your hand once per turn. This guy you can keep special summoning from your hand as long as you have the level 8 or higher Synchro monster. This guy's so fucking good. That's why he's semi-expensive in this deck. But Wandering King Wildwind, oh man, he is so good. Red Sprinter, so when you don't control any other monsters and you normal summon him, then you can special summon a level 3 or lower Fiend type monsters. That's all of your Resonators. Actually, that's all of your tuners, period. But it has to be a Fiend type monster, technically. From your hand. Oh, or from your graveyard. So actually, I could see that. I forgot about that. It could also be from the grave. So I could see that being viable. I'm glad I actually kept it at 2. The only reason why I had him even at 2, I used to have him at 3, and then I realized he wasn't as good as I'd hoped, is because he does sort of fit into the Jack Atlas archetype. So that's the reason why I really liked him. I used to have this guy, Red Warg. This guy, so he's a Fiend as well. I wish that if Resonator Command searched any Fiend monster, like I would search this guy, and then you could, I forget what the combo was. That basically, oh, that's right. I don't even think that guy's usable anyway. Yeah, because he's a win. Never mind, that combo was never going to exist in the first place. I don't even know why it diverged. But yeah, so Red Sprinter is quite good. He also is like $150. He's hard to find cheap, but I mean, I guess $150 is cheap, right? But for me, anything under $1 is cheap. Anything above that is like reasonable-ish. And then you've also got Skullmeister. I used to run 3 of him, and I opted out for the Red Familiar, who I used to actually eliminate him from my deck list because, well, I had the chance to use both of his effects, and I didn't really like him, and I put him back in because there actually was a reason that I put him back in. Mainly because I just felt like I did not need 3 Skullmeisters. He's a nice hand trap effect. He is searchable with Resonator Command. And also, you'll notice that all of these monsters in this deck are searchable with Witch of the Black Forest. And I'll get to her why she is so fucking good in this deck. But all of them are searchable. And yeah, he's just really nice to be able to, if need be, he can, what does he say? When a card effect is activated in your opponent's grave, you can send this card from your hand to the grave and negate that effect. That's basically how it sits, right? There are lots of decks that are able to utilize effects when a card is sent to the grave. Just negate it. That's how you do it. But a lot of the times I would rather just summon him, take my level 2 Synchro or Tuner, plus him, and make my level 6 Synchro. And then Red Familiar, he's again a searchable Fiend. The Fiends are really good in this deck because of Resonator Command. I used to actually run 2 Resonator Commands, but I don't know. I'm kind of working with 1 right now, and I kind of like it at that. But Red Familiar, he can have his uses. You can tribute needless Fiends that are on your side of the field to actually be able to bring back your Synchro monster, your Dark Dragon Synchro monsters. But just remember, when you do that, it's going to come out in defense position, and its effect is negated. That was the one thing when I used him. I was like, oh shit, I forgot that its effect is negated. So, but anyway, and then moving on to Witch of the Black Forest, the reason why I really like her in this deck is, again, all of these guys are searchable. Now, the eroded effect is that you cannot use its effect during the turn that you bring it to your hand, right? So it'd have to be next turn. However, there are several cards in this deck that don't give a shit. So I forget if Hat Tricker is one of them, because I've actually never attempted it with Hat Tricker, but Creation Resonator. Yes, technically it says when you're playing YJO Pro that activate when you're trying to special summon it from your hand, but this is not an ignition effect, right? It doesn't start a chain. You just are special summoning it based on the condition of the field. Same thing with Synchron Resonator. You special summon it. Now, Assault Synchron, I know you cannot, because I guess this does start a chain because you have to take the 700 damage. That's the reason why I'm almost positive that Hat Tricker would be able to special summon himself, because that does not start a chain. So you can you can search out the Hat Tricker, search out the Creation Resonator, search out the Synchron Resonator, search out the Red Nova, and then and you can still special summon them for free. So if you need that level 1 tuner, or that level 3 tuner, or the level 4 non-tuner, after you've gotten Witch of the Black Forest, because think about it, like Hat Tricker is so nice. I might as well move into it right now. If there are 2 or more monsters on the field, there will always be 2 or more monsters on the field. He's a free special summon right there. You could run however many you want. I like him at 1, and he's really nice for this deck because the majority. It's sort of like the Dragoonity deck. You're mainly looking at level 2 tuners and level 4 non-tuners. Now, obviously, I have a combination of other tuners as well, but that's mainly what, because you're looking for the Red Rising Dragon. That's the reason why. That's what you're getting at. Now, I like the Creation Resonator. He's easily searchable. He can also be special summoned due to Crimson Resonator's effect. The fact that you can bring this guy back with Synchron Resonator's effect from the grave, and then special summon him again. He's also a really easy way with Creation Resonator, Synchron Resonator, and your Scarlight Red Demon's Dragon. Be able to make your Scar Red Nova Dragon. That's incredibly good. Oh god, I love this guy so much. And then the Fiery Ant Ascator, like I mentioned, he's just to be special summoned by the Dawn Walker. Now he can be special summoned from the deck or the hand. I prefer from the deck, obviously, for hand advantage reasons. But that's the only reason why he exists. But he is a tuner, so that'll count towards the pump up attack boost for Scar Red Nova and Red Supernova. And then you've got Crimson Resonator. He is the star of the deck. He is the one that if you control no monsters, you get a special summon them for free. And then, when there's only one other... What is it? If the only other monster you control is exactly one Dark Dragon Synchro monster, you can special summon up to 2 Resonators from hand or deck, except Crimson Resonator. Oh my god. So all you have to do is special summon this guy. And then you special summon or normal summon, it doesn't matter. Let's say you have another level 4 monster in your hand, and you bring him to the field. You take Crimson Resonator and that level 4 monster, you bring out Red Rising Dragon. Red Rising Dragon's effect special summons back Crimson Resonator. It's almost like a Vajrayana, except instead of equipping, and then eventually unequipping and special summoning, it just straight special summons. You bring back Crimson Resonator to the field, now you activate his other effect to be able to special summon 2 more from the deck. You take the level 2, the level 1, and the level 3. So these are the 2 that special summon from the deck. And you take 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 6. There's your Red Supernova Dragon. So freaking... This guy will come... If you're smart, you'll bring him out as often as possible. But he's very easy to special summon is the main thing that I'm getting at there. Because of this guy right now. Now, he does come with a bit of a side effect, right? So you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Dark Dragon Synchro monsters the turn you activate either of these cards' effects. So you'll notice that, except for these guys over here, which... Like I mentioned, I built this several months ago. They're all Dark Dragon Synchros. Because I so often am bringing out Crimson Resonator. And don't forget, Resonator Command can actually search out Resonators. Because they are level 4 or lower fiends. So sometimes I will actually go for this guy. Because he's very nice. And then you've got Assault Synchron. So he came out within maybe just over a month ago now. I don't even remember. Time's been flying here lately. But during your main phase, you can special summon this card from here. Obviously, he's supposed to be put in the Blackwing deck because his orange scarf is reminiscent of that of Crow Hogan, and he's obviously got his little jet in the form of the Blackbird that Crow Hogan drove. But he goes well in my Yusei deck and my Jack deck because he's a level... First of all, he's dark, so you can search for him with Chaos Ruler. Second of all, he's a level 2 tuner, which goes very well in this deck. And then also, you'll get a chance to see his last effect. If a face-up Dragon Synchro monster, which this happens a lot in the Yusei deck, and then also quite a bit in this deck. If a face-up Dragon Synchro monster you control is tributed or banished, you can banish this card from your graveyard, like right when it happens. Then target one of those monsters, special summon it. So, you'll see me get a chance. Normally, when this guy activates his effect and banishes himself, it's until the end of your next turn, not until the end of that turn. So he's gone for a while. But if Assault Synchron's in the grave, he comes right back, and then you've got a big beater that activated his effect, so he cleared your opponent's side of the field, and then he's still sitting there waiting for some more. And then you've got Red Resonator. He's extremely good. Because of him, I was actually thinking about running Ancient Leaf. I don't have it down here anymore, but Ancient Leaf, for people who know, when you have 9,000 or more life points, you can pay 2,000 of them to draw 2 cards. Because this guy, when he gets special summoned, he can target one face-up monster on the field and you gain life points. There have been times that I'm sitting at over 14,000 life points while my opponent, you know, once the main phase 2 rolls around, is sitting at 0 because of Red Resonator. Now, he also is similar to Red Sprinter in that when he's normal summon, you can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your hand. So that's another opportunity to still be able to get your tuner on the field and a level 4 fiend or just one of your level 4 non-tuners on the field that, while at the same time getting both monsters on the field at the same time, right? So some of them, the non-tuners special summon themselves. Some of them, the tuners special summon themselves. But sometimes this guy is nice because he can do both effects. He's like the marauding captain of this deck, basically. Chain Resonator, I like him because he's a light target, which you'll, if you're familiar with Chaos Ruler, being able to special summon him back for free by banishing the Chain Resonator. He's really nice. And then also, if you've, like, for instance, special summon Crimson Resonator, special summon Wandering King Wildwind, you do your shit, blah, 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 you still have a normal summon. Normal summon Chain Resonator. Now you get to bring, so when this card is normal summon while a synchro monster is on the field, so don't forget it has to have a synchro monster on the field. You can special summon one Resonator monster from your deck, except Chain Resonator, only run one of them. And then you bring out like a Synchron Resonator or something. Bloody gloriousness right there. Chain Resonator is really quite nice, but only run one of them, and he's nice for the light target. Synchron Resonator, you gotta run 3 of him. He is so damn good. Once per turn, you can special summon him for free from your hand if you control a synchro monster. It's not like Creation Resonator where it has to be level 8 or higher. It could just be the Red Rising Dragon, so he's very nice. And then if this card is sent from the field to the grave, so by battle, by synchroing, whatever, then you get to target one Resonator monster in your graveyard, except himself, and add it to your hand. So I will typically, like I was mentioned before, Crimson Resonator summons both Creation and Synchron from the grave, or excuse me, from the deck. Boom! You take Red Rising Dragon plus Crimson Resonator plus Synchron Resonator plus Creation Resonator, and you make your Red Supernova Dragon. Because both these guys went, well, actually, technically, all 3 of them went to the grave at the same time. Synchron Resonator will then search for Creation Resonator, and then you can special summon Creation Resonator again for free if you want it. That's amazingly awesome. Now, one of the reasons why you'll see that his name is spelled funkily with a K instead of a C is because he cannot be searched by tuning because of that. Otherwise, tuning could search for him. Add one Synchron Tuner monster from your deck to your hand. That would have been amazing if I could have searched for this guy with something as simple as a tuning, because it also mills, which is actually somewhat favorable in this deck if you can mill shit. That's the reason why his name is misspelled. Otherwise, it would just be too broken. All those cards that refer to Synchron Tuners would be able to boost him in some way. But yeah, so he's a level 1 Resonator Tuner. Very nice. And I've got Red Nova in here. Now, you might be thinking, whoa, what the fuck? That's a throwback to the anime if you've ever seen the... Was it uncensored? Or not uncensored. Only the Japanese version, I think. Right? Where Jack actually went and dueled the Servant of the Crimson Devil. Basically, the guy who unlocked the potential to have Scar Red Nova Dragon. Because he was dueling against the Servant, the familiar of Scar Red Nova. So, in that duel... all of a sudden, he used the power of the Burning Soul, which is the reason why I've got... I mean, I would never use this card because it's not really that good. But this is Burning Soul. That was his name. The guy who locked away Scar Red Nova, his name was Burning Soul. And apparently, Jack was the spiritual successor of Burning Soul. And he used Red Nova... once he unlocked the ability to summon Scar Red Nova Dragon, he used Red Nova, and then I guess one of his level 3... probably like a Dark Resonator or something. I honestly don't remember. But he special summoned Red Nova for free once Red Demon's Dragon was on the field, and then a level 3 tuner. And boom! You get Scar Red Nova Dragon. So this guy is really quite good, like I mentioned. He's searchable with Witch of the Black Forest. He's often... he's summonable with 1-for-1. He's often able to just special summon himself because he's like Creation Resonator. If there's a level 8 or higher Dragon Synchro monster on the field, although this just says Synchro. This is going to be Dragon Synchro, but as you can see, that's the only things that are going to be on the field are Dragon Synchros if it's level 8 or higher. You can special summon Red Nova once per turn this way. If this card is sent to the grave for a Synchro monster that uses 2 or more tuners as the material, you can special summon one Fire Fiend monster from your deck in defense position. That is the reason why I actually have 2 red sprinters now. Is because Red Nova, that's pretty freaking nice. Get out the red sprinter, man. Now, you could also go for the red Resonator if you wanted, but to be able to further enhance your synchro summons, you typically want to go after non-tuners. That tends to be what you're more deficient in, is non-tuners than tuners, but regardless, this guy is really nice. He's also secret rare, and he was so cheap. He was like 25 cents online. I was so happy to get him. And I had 2 Effect Veilers lying around from my old Dragoonity deck back in the day. So I was like, let me go ahead and throw that in here. It'll be like sort of a mingling of Yusei and Jack in the same deck, because Effect Veiler is obviously Yusei's cards. But again, it's a light target for Chaos Ruler being able to special summon himself. He's level 1, so it can be special summon with 1-for-1 if you want. And then obviously you know what 1-for-1 does. Resonator Call, it's your searcher for your Resonators. Very simple. You want to run it. It's very good for deck thinning as well. Monster Reborn, why not? Resonator Command, I had 2 of them, but you never want to have 2 of these things in your hand, so I decided to just cut it to 1. I don't know. I'm still working with it to see whether or not I want to bump it back up to 2, but as of right now, 1 is actually working a lot better than 2. And then I run 1 Red Rain. This guy is also pretty cheap. He is so freaking good. Every duel that I pull this, I set it, and I can activate it. And a lot of times, that is a good way to fuck over your opponent, assuming they don't negate it or something with whatever. But if you control level 8 or higher synchro monster, banish all monsters on the field except the monster with the highest level. Also, the remaining face-up monsters on the field are unaffected by other card effects, except their own until the end of this turn. If a Dark Dragon synchro monster is synchro summoned to your field while this card is in your grave, you can add this card to your hand. That always happens. If I ever activate this card on my next turn, I'm always able to add it back because I'm always doing that. I just continue to synchro summon and everything. So Red Rain is very good to be able, because it doesn't target, it doesn't destroy, it just straight up banishes. I love it. Let's see them get around that. And then I run 3 synchro calls. I also had 3 Dark Ruler No Mores, but I decided to put in 3 synchro calls. You can obviously swap between the 2 depending on if you go first or second. The reason why I like synchro call, mainly if I go first, is because I can target 1 monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but it has its effects negated, I don't care. Immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon 1 Dark Dragon or Fiend type synchro monster using only monsters you control as materials, including the summon monster. A lot of the times, I'll set up my field such that I will have, I mean, it doesn't really matter, like another tuner, and then like a level 8 on the field, and then I can bring out like another tuner from the grave with synchro call, immediately go into a hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. I have a duel exemplifying this. Exemplifying? Is that the proper verb? I don't know. Anyway, making an example of that. When this card is synchro summoned, well, I guess I might as well just move right into the extra deck. When this card is synchro summoned, you can activate this effect for the rest of this turn. Your opponent cannot activate cards. Also, your opponent cannot. Also, cards your opponent controls cannot activate their effects. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. That's the main thing. Making sure that they can never stop this, like with an effect veiler or something. If this card destroys a monster by battle, inflict damage to your opponent. Although, I guess if you synchro call during your opponent's draw phase, then it probably wouldn't matter. I think that's legal, right? I mean, after all, you can assault mode activate during your opponent's draw phase. So, you summon him, and then they can't activate anything for the rest of that turn. So their entire first turn is just set, end. And that's pretty well it. That's the reason why I really like him. Now, also, if he attacks and destroys a monster that your opponent has on the field, right? So it now comes back around to your turn. You can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the monster's original attack. And if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target 1 level 8 or lower Dark Dragon synchro monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So, I mean, he's got multiple effects. That's what you want in your monsters. Red Supernova Dragon. What can I say about this guy? He is so amazing. He is also a little bit ridiculous if you see it until you understand how simple it is with this particular deck. But when you see 3 tuners plus a non-tuner synchro monster, you're like, what the fuck? That's pretty crazy. When Red Nova Dragon came out back in the day, he was the first monster, and for a while there, the only monster, that required a double tuning to summon. I think eventually... was it Vylon Delta or something? Hold on, let me see. Vylon, or was it? It wasn't Sigma. I think it was Delta, right? Is this the double two? No, it wasn't Delta then. Oh no, it's Omega, right? Yes, Omega, the big guy. Obviously, Z, right? Omega. 2 tuners plus 1 non-tuner. I think he was the second ever double tuning monster. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the way it was. But when, in the anime, for sure, when Jack summoned Scar Red Nova Dragon, they were like, a double tuning? Like, Jack actually said double tuning because they had never done that sort of synchro summon before, where it required 2 tuners and 1 non-tuner. Usually it's the other way around. But this guy requires 3, and he's very similar to Scar Red Nova Dragon in that he gains 500 attack for each tuner in the grave, except he starts out with 4,000 instead of 3,500, which makes sense. He's harder to summon. They're both level 12, though, so that's the reason why it's typically harder to summon. This, you just take a level 8, the Scarlight, and then 2 tuners that add up to 4, so either 2 level 2s or 1 3, or 1 3 and 1 1, and then you summon him. But this guy, you got to be crafty about it. You have to have the tuners add up to 6, and then a level 6 non-tuner. That's the main way that I do it. There is another way that you can actually do it using Exploder Dragon Wing, but I'll get into that in one of the duels. But he cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, just like Scar Red Nova. And then once per turn, when your opponent's monster effect is activated, or when an opponent's monster declares an attack, and this is a quick effect, you can activate this card, banish this card, also banish all cards your opponent controls. Now, it doesn't negate the effect, it just banishes it, and all cards your opponent controls. It's very good, but he can't be destroyed either, so if, you'll actually see him clash against a Red Eyes Dragoon, or Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. That was pretty freaking epic. The number of chain links that it went up to was ridiculous. But once per turn during your next end phase after this card was banished by its own effect, special summon this banished card. So it's not like a Cosmic Blazar Dragon where he will come back at the end phase. He has to wait till the, at the end of your turn, then your opponent goes, and then the end of your next turn, then he'll come back. So just, be a little careful about what you're banishing. Make sure that you've got hopefully something else on the field to act as a wall if he's activating his effect. Scar Red Nova Dragon, you cannot make a Jack Atlas deck without this card. It's still also so freaking good. And there have been duels where on the same turn, I will summon both of the Novas. I mean, they come out with full force. I mean, it's like 16,000 damage worth of attack points in combination between these two. So it's really quite good. Now, he can do negates attacks, and this guy he doesn't negate effects, but he can banish the entire field. So Red Nova Dragon obviously has his uses as well. And then you've got this guy just because he's a Dark Dragon synchro monster pretty well. He's easily summonable in here because you've got your Red Rising Dragon, you've got your level 8 Chaos Ruler who can combine with like a Red Resonator or a Crimson Resonator or something that got left on the field, and you can make him. He cannot be destroyed by battle, so he's pretty good. He's got 4,000 attack. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave, you can activate this card. You can activate this effect. This card can make a second attack on an opponent's monster in a row. I forget what the analogous version of this somewhere. It's not Blackluster Soldier, but there's another monster that's exactly like that. Anyway, during your standby phase, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Its attack becomes half its current attack, and if it does, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that lost attack. So he's quite nice. I think I've only used him ever once, but he's pretty nice, and he was cheap as shit. Now this guy. Okay, well, he's fairly expensive. He's like $10. I don't know why. He's a level 10, and he's a double tuning as well, unlike the hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane. But the Tyrant, I don't understand why he's so expensive. I've never summoned him. Yes, I know what his effects are. I know I can read English. But why is he so good? I've never wanted to activate his effect. He's a very niche scenario monster, in my opinion. But maybe there's something that I'm missing here. Yes, he looks cool and everything, but he's also $10. So anyway, moving on. Bane. This guy's really nice. He can be easily summoned because he's a level 10 and only requires the one tuner. When he inflicts damage, you can special summon a tuner. Well, actually 2 tuners, right? So one from the deck and one from the grave. They have to be the same level though. So typically it's going to be like a Crimson Resonator or a Red Resonator, one from the hand, one from the deck. Or it could be a Chain Resonator, Synchron Resonator from the, well, hold on. No, it just says tuner, right? So it could be a Red Nova as well. You could special summon a Red Nova. It does not have to be a Resonator. It just has to be a tuner. So that's quite nice. You could also go for the Effect Veiler. A Synchron Resonator in the grave, probably, and a Red Nova from the deck. And then you get Red Nova's effect as well if this card is sent to the grave for a Synchro Summon that uses 2 or more tuner monsters, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. He's really nice. Also, you can tribute 1 monster, so if you've got leftover Resonators typically on the field, you can tribute 1 of them to bring back 1 of your hot red, just as Red Dragon Archfiend monster from your grave. So a lot of times I'll use this guy, Abyss, and a Synchron Resonator to make this, and then I'll like sack the Creation Resonator, or actually, I mean, it depends on what order you can do it in, but you'll sack something that got to be special summoned for free, like a Creation Resonator, and bring right back the Abyss, which leads perfectly, as a perfect transition into the Abyss's effect. He is, well, I mean, basically he just gets to once per turn during either player's turn negate an effect. So if they Raigeki, for instance, right, then you can negate the Raigeki to save your guys. And it doesn't destroy whatever it is negating, but for something like a Raigeki, that's very nice. And then also, when this guy, very similar to the Bane, he's a level 9 Synchro monster, so just FYI. He's a little bit different in terms of summoning because he is an odd level. Most of these guys in here, except for the Exploder Dragonwing, are even levels. This guy is odd, literally. The way in which you would summon him is going to be a little bit different than the rest of the guys. But when he does inflict battle damage, similar to Bane, except it doesn't include the deck, he gets a special summon 1 tuner from your grave. So that's pretty nice, actually. I like him quite a bit. Also, he requires, it has to be a non-tuner Dark Dragon Synchro monster, which is almost always going to be the way that it's done. You take like a Chaos Ruler and a Synchron Resonator, or you take the Red Rising Dragon and a Creation Resonator. Boom, you got yourself your Abyss. It's very nice. Bielza? Dude, I remember back when this guy used to be super expensive because he can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects. And if you take damage from an attack involving this card or from an opponent's card effect, this card gains attack equal to the damage you took, and that's permanent. Now, he might be a nice way to open up turn 1, but I rarely ever summon him anymore just because this deck does such a good job. You want to open up with Abyss for sure. Being able to negate once per turn for free is really quite effective. I really like him. Red Supernova and Abyss, that's a really good combination right there. Chaos Ruler, you know what Chaos Ruler does. He excavates top 5, search out the dark monster that you want to bring to your hand, and then you could activate its effect. Yeah, it's just so freaking good. The fact that this guy got banned, I'm not really surprised. I run him in like 4 of my decks. My Lightsworn deck, my Yusei deck, my Jack Atlas deck. He's a side card in my Blackwing deck, but did I actually main him? Yes, I ended up maining him because I forget what I even took out, but I didn't like whatever else it was in there that I was maining before. So he's really good. Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. He's got a good effect, yes, you can obviously read it there. He has the ability to pop some special summon monsters, special summon effect monsters on your opponent's side of the field and inflict damage. But I like him because his name counts as Red Dragon Archfiend. So I can get out this the Red Nova Dragon. That's the reason why I really like him. And then, of course, he can always be special summoned back from the grave with Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane's effect, right? Because it's already read it to you. Exploder Dragonwing. I was lacking Synchro monsters to put in here because it has to be Dark Dragon Synchro monsters. There's no reason to put anything else in here because of so many of the cards in here that will limit you to that narrow range of extra deck monsters anyway. So I had him in here because he's a Dark Dragon Synchro monster, but also because he's a level 7. So I needed a variety of monsters because, well, you're going to need lots of different, you're going to encounter lots of different situations, scenarios, and you want to always be able to bring out your best guys, even if you have to go into weird combinations. Sometimes I had to go into level 7 because I messed up one time. And I'm glad I had Exploder Dragonwing to do so. So he's really nice. He's also one of Jack's ace cards from the anime. So he's really nice. Unfortunately, because he's not very popular, he only got printed once, he's expensive because he's a classic. He's a freaking classic from way back in the day. He's over 10 years old. And then you got Red Rising Dragon. Oh, God. If you're going to Effect Veiler anything, you want to Effect Veiler him because he is so freaking good. Notice he's a mini Red Dragon Archfiend, right? I mean, look at him. Red Dragon Archfiend, mate. Oh, God, I forgot about it. See, that's him. And that's him. He's just a miniature version of him because he's so freaking good. I mean, that's what the rising part is, right? He's about to become a Red Dragon Archfiend. Anyway, He'll special summon back, typically the Crimson Resonator, or whatever other monster you want. But now, if you summon him, again, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this card, except Dark Dragon Synchro monsters. So, Crimson Resonator is going to limit you. Red Rising Dragon is going to limit you. That's the reason why you might as well just run all Dark Dragon Synchro monsters. I'll explain these last two in a little bit. But he is so good. Also, again, just like Wandering King Wildwind, during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 2 level 1 Resonator monsters in your graveyard, special summon both. And they can be the same one. They don't have to be of a different name or whatever. So he's good again. He pluses your field. I like him quite a bit. You can choose when to activate his effect. It doesn't have to be like right away the next turn. And then you've got Formula Synchron and, Halki Fibrax. The only reason why I even included him is because I was running out of things to populate in here. For a while there, I had 100 Eyes Dragon. And then I realized, oh wait, I can't summon him because it requires a Dark Tuner plus a non-tuner Fiend type. That's never going to happen. I don't have a non-tuner Fiend type that's high enough level to make this guy possible. So I was like, okay, fuck that. I'm not going to run him. Instead, I'll just throw these two guys in. Unfortunately, Halki Fibrax later on got banned. But the idea was Synchro Call helps you make your Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, which is how you shut down your opponent on their turn, especially opening up. Halki Fibrax, he won't be able to do it on your opponent's first turn, but he can do it on your opponent's second turn, because Crimson Resonator and Red Rising Dragon are going to shut down your ability to even summon this guy in the first place, because it has to be Dark Dragon Synchro monsters that turn. But when you summon this guy, and then you bring out a Formula Synchron, and Formula Synchron during your opponent's turn will allow you to summon Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, then we're talking. Then you are going to be able to shut that. Now it's going to be, like I said, your opponent's second turn, not their first turn, but that's still pretty good. So every now and then you could summon this guy, and they're fairly cheap now, especially since this motherfucker just got banned. But that's the gist of the deck. Let's go ahead and jump into the replays. Oh, so this was back when I was running the Force Resonator. You do not need the Force Resonator, I found out. Running 3 Red Resonators and the 3 Crimson Resonators is way more than enough. You don't need additional level 2 Resonators. There you go. Very nice. So yeah, I mean, this was very early on when I was using the deck, so I was sort of getting used to it myself. But obviously, you can bring out lots of high-level monsters. That's very simple to do. Oh, so there was a time when I was actually running Trap Trick in order to accelerate my ability to get Synchro Call. I was running 2 Trap Tricks. You no longer need to run the Trap Tricks, because of the fact that Synchro Call is nice to have, but it's not a need to have. Yeah, so this is when I found out Creation Resonator can still actually special summon himself. And what? Look, he just brought himself. He just brought his big fella friend right back to the field, even though this guy should be gone until the end of when it comes back around to my turn again. But instead, it's all Synchron's like, hey guy, I can help you out, and he brings him right back to the field, ready to go again. Now the only thing is, of course, because he's no longer summoned from the extra deck, he's summoned from the banished pile. He will go back to this bottom row right here. Oh yeah, and this is when I found out that Red Familiar's effect. I was like, oh shit, it negated it? Okay, yeah, whatever. But I ended up still keeping Red Familiar, first of all, because he's iconic, right, from the anime. But also, I didn't need a third Skullmeister, and I still need a level 4 non-tuner in my deck. And Skullmeister's a fiend, this guy's a fiend, so it was like, you know, an equal replacement. There you go. Yeah, so the main way, if you want to stop this deck, I don't even know why I'm telling people how to stop this deck, but it should be fairly obvious by now. You want to try to stop the Crimson Resonator as much as possible, because he's obviously the guy that's going to plus your field with tuners. And also stop the Red Rising Dragon, because he's probably going to be the one that's bringing back the Crimson Resonator, so that way you can plus your field with dragon or tuners to make your big dragons later on in the play. Now, there was also a version where I was running Psy Reflector, and you'll be able to see how I utilize that. I don't like it as much because you end up with more dead hands, but he is usable. Also, he's a lot more expensive. Yeah, that's the reason why Red Rain will just clear that fucking field for stuff that gets effects when they go to the grave. Nope, not anymore. Yeah, I don't run that Chaos Valkyria anymore either because, I mean, like I said, I've been working with this for several months now, and I learned what works best with this archetype and what doesn't. Oh, I also don't run Draco Berserker anymore either, obviously. He's just not... He's not as good in this deck as I had hoped for. There we go, and it's just really that simple. I mean, they have such high fucking attack. And notice how he could not activate his effect either. Bring him right back. There you go. That's what I freaking love. Even if this guy gets banished, he will then be able to activate his effect to banish everything on the opponent's side of the field. And then when he does get banished, Assault Synchron's like, hey, I'm going to bring you right back to the field just because you just got banished. Oh, I don't run Harpy's Feather Duster anymore either, but I guess that's a possibility. Yeah, so I mean, obviously I wouldn't be able to special summon him at the end of my turn anyway, because I have all of these monster zone slots filled up, but he won't come back until the end of the next turn, so I have an opportunity to use up shit in my main phase 1, and then once my end phase comes around, he'll come right back to the field. Oh yeah, so I was dueling against my friend who was trying out the heroes, and I was showing him the power of Jack Atlas, and after he dueled against this deck, he now wants to also build this deck, which I told him, hell no, this is mine, hands off. And there you go. Game over! Because he activated the Solemn Judgment and everything. He thought that he had me in the bag, but he did not. And there you go. Yeah, so that's pretty well it here. I'll go ahead and take you back to the deck. But I'm sorry that this turned out to be a really long video, but I can't help it. I love this deck. This deck and the Yusei deck I love the most with a passion. Like, I love all my decks. I love all my children, quote-unquote, equally. But these ones I have a special affinity for because 5Ds is my favorite anime of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Animes. And also because Jack Atlas is my favorite in the 5Ds universe. Now, I think I'm going to say that Jack Atlas is still #1 over Kaito, but Kaito is my favorite. Oh, I'm not supposed to show that yet. But Kaito is my favorite from Zale. And then Yusei, obviously, I love him. He's my second favorite in the 5Ds universe. And I will be showing that in the... Hold on, let me see what's after this. Oh, Lightsworns is after this. Eventually, we will be getting to Yusei, but not anytime soon. So that's pretty well it for now. If you've got any questions or concerns, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them, and I will talk to you all in the future. See you guys.